The days after the battle were calm but filled with busy activity. The outpost worked tirelessly to repair damage, strengthen defenses, and restore order. Soldiers and scientists moved quickly, assessing energy surges, repairing broken scanners, and analyzing the traces left by the invaders. Yet even amid the work, the sense of triumph and hope lingered. Humans had survived against impossible odds, and more importantly, they had done so with the help of an alien ally. Ethan walked through the outpost, keeping close to Lyra. Her presence was a constant reassurance, a reminder of the bond that had grown between them in the heat of danger. She moved lightly, her silver skin catching the pale light of the facility, her violet eyes scanning the room, alert and curious. The humans around them looked at her with awe, some with suspicion, but mostly with respect. She had proven herself, and through her courage, she had shown humanity that cooperation was possible, even between the most different of species. The commander approached Ethan as he observed Lyra guiding a group of engineers. "Cole," he said, voice firm but not angry. "I underestimated you. You and her changed the outcome of this fight." "I can't ignore that," Ethan nodded. "We only survived because we worked together. That's all." The commander studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Still, we need to document everything." "Your partnership. It's unprecedented. I need reports, protocols, anything you've learned. And be careful. Not everyone will understand what you two mean to each other." Ethan met Lyra's gaze. She gave a faint smile, and he understood. Rules could wait. Hearts did not. Over the following days, Ethan and Lyra continued to explore their connection, while helping the outpost adapt to the reality of a new threat. They walked together in the forest, studying its energy flows and mapping safe paths for humans to move without damaging the delicate environment. Lyra showed Ethan hidden wonders of her world, trees that sang with wind currents, stones that pulsed like hearts, streams that reflected not just light, but the feelings of those who touched them. In return, Ethan shared images and stories of Earth, painting pictures of oceans, mountains, and cities that seemed impossible to Lyra, yet wonderful. Their bond grew stronger with each shared moment. The quiet evenings beneath the twin moons became sacred times, where words were often unnecessary. Hands brushed, smiles were exchanged, and glances held more meaning than any language could convey. Ethan sometimes marveled at how someone so different could feel so familiar. Lyra, in turn, felt the human warmth that seemed to radiate from him, a kind of courage and persistence her people rarely saw in outsiders. One evening, as the sun dipped behind alien mountains, Ethan and Lyra returned to their favorite clearing. The streams shimmered softly, reflecting the fading light. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything they had endured. "Lyra," he said, his voice low but steady, "I have something to ask." Her eyes lifted to meet his, curious and calm. Ethan reached into his pocket and produced a small band of metal he had fashioned from earth materials, simple yet strong. "I know our worlds are different," he continued, "and I know there are rules I cannot change. But I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?" Lyra blinked, a faint glow in her eyes. For a moment, silence stretched, broken only by the soft hum of the streams. Then she stepped closer, reaching out to hold his hand. "Yes," she whispered, her voice carrying warmth and certainty. "Yes, Ethan, I will." A wave of joy surged through him. For all the challenges, all the danger and uncertainty, they had found each other. Their bond had survived threats, battles, and the weight of two very different worlds. And now it was recognized, embraced, and celebrated in the quiet understanding between them. The following weeks were filled with preparations for their union. Not a ceremony like humans might hold on Earth, nor one entirely according to her people's traditions, but a celebration that honored both cultures. The human crew and Lyra's people came together, learning from each other, sharing stories, music, and laughter. Boundaries blurred as curiosity and respect replaced fear. Ethan watched as Lyra spoke with her people, explaining how humans had saved her world from the invaders, how trust had led to cooperation. His heart swelled with pride and gratitude. He realized that their love had become a symbol of unity, proof that two species could find harmony even after centuries of isolation and misunderstanding. On the day they joined their lives symbolically, the clearing was alive with color. The streams glowed brighter than ever, reacting to Lyra's joy and energy. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, hands intertwined, hearts beating in sync. There were no grand speeches, no lavish rituals, only the quiet affirmation of two beings who had survived, grown, and chosen each other. "I promise," Ethan whispered, his forehead resting against hers, "to protect you, to stand by you, to face whatever comes next together." Lyra's eyes shimmered with violet light. "And I promise, Ethan, to be with you, to share my world, my life, and to face whatever comes together." The planet seemed to respond to their union. The streams shimmered with patterns that mirrored their connection. The trees swayed gently even in still air, and the energy hum of the forest carried a tone of celebration. For a moment, the universe felt smaller, kinder, and full of possibility. After the ceremony, Ethan and Lyra took time to explore the planet together. They traveled to forests deeper than the outpost had mapped, discovered rivers that sang with energy, and stood on cliffs where the wind carried the scent of distant seas. Each moment was a reminder of how different and beautiful her world was, and how their bond allowed them to bridge the gap between species, cultures, and fears. Back at the outpost, humans began to understand Lyra's people more. Communication improved, new protocols were developed, and plans were made to explore the planet without harming it. The story of Ethan and Lyra became a quiet legend among the crew, a reminder that cooperation, understanding, and even love could overcome the vast differences that often separated civilizations. As months passed, the threat of the invaders diminished. The creatures had retreated, leaving traces but no active aggression. Scientists studied the energy they had used, learning lessons that would help defend against future threats. But for Ethan and Lyra, the most important discovery was the trust, love, and partnership they had built together. It was stronger than any weapon, more enduring than fear, and more valuable than all the knowledge in the galaxy. One evening, standing beneath the twin moons once more, Ethan held Lyra's hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. "Do you ever think about Earth?" he asked softly. Lyra smiled, eyes reflecting both curiosity and affection. "Yes, but my home is here now, with you." "With us," Ethan nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "And our future, it will be together. No matter where the stars take us, we face it side by side." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Together," she echoed, and the word carried weight and certainty, a promise that no one could break. The forest was alive around them, streams glowing softly, trees swaying gently, and the hum of the planet blending with the steady rhythm of their hearts. They stood in silence, not needing words, for everything they had experienced, every battle fought, every danger survived, had brought them to this moment. Their love was proof that humans could reach across boundaries, that courage and compassion could build bridges even across worlds, and that hope could flourish in the darkest corners of the universe. As the twin moons rose high, bathing the clearing in silver light, Ethan whispered softly, "We did it. We really did it." Lyra's hand found his, fingers entwining. "Yes, and this is just the beginning." The universe stretched out around them, vast and full of unknowns, but Ethan and Lyra did not fear it. They had each other, and together they were stronger than anything the stars could throw at them. In that quiet forest on a distant planet, a human and an alien girl had found love, unity, and hope, a promise of what the future could hold not just for them, but for both their worlds. And as they stood beneath the glowing sky, hearts aligned, they knew one simple truth: together, they could face anything, and love could change even the galaxy. The stars above the Thalviri capital world shimmered like countless silver fires, but Queen Sarathis did not look at them anymore. Once she had loved the night skies, finding comfort in their endless beauty. But that was before the great wound had been carved into her life. Now the stars were cruel reminders of what she had lost and could never replace. Years ago, her daughters had been taken from her during a diplomatic journey, stolen in an attack that had shattered not only her family, but also her heart. The galaxy had searched. Armadas had scoured the void. Rewards had been offered beyond measure. But the princesses were gone, leaving the queen with only silence and shadows. The palace hall still carried the echo of their laughter. Every room seemed to hold a memory. She remembered little Leora running down marble corridors, chasing after her older sister Kaelin, whose laughter had been bold and bright. They had been the promise of the Empire's future, the heart of her rule. Without them, the throne felt like a prison. She wore her crown with dignity as the people expected, but her smile was hollow. The court whispered about her grief, though never in her presence. Nobles knew her sorrow but rarely spoke of it. Some thought she had grown cold, but in truth she had become like glass, still standing, still shining but fragile, ready to break at the slightest touch. She gave her empire stability, but in private, her chambers were quiet tombs where she lit candles for daughters who never came home. The galaxy moved on, as galaxies do. Borders shifted. War sparked and ended. Trade prospered. Yet for Queen Sarathis, time stopped the day her daughters were taken. Though decades passed, she could not forget. She often stood on her palace balcony at night, staring at the horizon, imagining what life might have been if they had survived. Far from the palace, on the opposite side of the galaxy, a human named Elias Ward guided his old salvage ship through fields of wreckage. Unlike the regal halls of the Thalviri, his world was one of rust, dust, and survival. Elias was no soldier, no nobleman, no hero. He was simply a scavenger, a man who made his living in the graveyards of space. The galaxy was vast, and where there was war, there was always wreckage. Elias collected what others left behind: broken ships, abandoned stations, forgotten cargo. To most, it was dangerous work. Pirates lurked in the shadows, and derelict worlds often hid more than scrap. But to Elias, it was a way of life. He had grown up among ruins, raised on the fringes of human colonies where people learned to survive with what they could find. Salvage was in his blood as much as breathing. His ship, the Wayfarer's Hope, was small and patched together from parts of other vessels. Some engines were older than he was. The navigation console flickered if struck at the wrong angle. The life support system wheezed when pushed too hard. But it was home. Elias knew every bolt, every weld, every hidden trick to keep the old craft flying. He often joked that his ship was more alive than most people, stubbornly holding on no matter what the galaxy threw at it. On this day, he had followed a rumor to a forgotten world at the edge of a dead system. Long ago, pirates had used it as a base, but no one had seen activity there for years. Elias hoped to find abandoned supplies, maybe even a stash of stolen technology. If he was lucky, he might find something worth enough credits to keep him flying for another season. The planet below was dry and gray, scarred by craters and storms. As Elias descended through thin clouds, his sensors picked up traces of metal deep beneath the surface. He guided the ship toward a canyon that looked like a scar carved into the planet's skin. The Wayfarer's Hope settled with a groan of landing struts, and Elias pulled on his suit, grabbing a scanner and a plasma torch before stepping into the cold dust. The canyon walls loomed high, casting long shadows. Wind whispered across the barren surface, carrying the faint metallic tang of oxidized wreckage. Elias followed his scanner deeper into the canyon until he found it, a half-buried pirate stronghold, sealed behind rusting gates. It was an ugly structure, built of stolen alloys and patched with crude repairs, a place meant only to hide stolen lives and stolen goods. Elias cut his way inside. The air was stale, the corridors silent. He moved carefully, knowing that such places often held dangers: collapsed ceilings, unstable reactors, or worse. His scanner pinged again, guiding him deeper until he reached a chamber sealed with heavy doors. They were scarred with blaster fire, but still intact. After several minutes of cutting and forcing, he pried them open. Inside, he expected to find loot or weapon caches. Instead, he found something that froze him in place. 2 tall stasis pods stood in the center of the chamber, their glass still clear despite the dust of years. And inside them were 2 figures. Elias stepped closer, his breath caught in his throat. They were not human. Their features were sharp, graceful, unmistakably Thalviri. One looked slightly older, her posture even in sleep full of dignity. The other was younger, her face softer, peaceful. Both wore strange jewelry, delicate circlets that shimmered faintly even after all this time. For a moment, Elias thought he was looking at corpses preserved in glass. But his scanner told a different story. Life signs, weak but present. Against all odds, these 2 beings were alive, locked in slumber for who knew how many years. He whispered to himself, "What in the void did I just find?" The thought of leaving them crossed his mind. They weren't his responsibility. They weren't even his species. Taking them out of stasis would be risky, and yet something in him refused to walk away. The galaxy was full of wreckage, full of forgotten things. But these 2, these weren't things. They were people. Elias studied the stasis pod, searching for controls. The pirate tech was old, patched together and barely functional. He worked carefully, rerouting power from his portable generator into the systems. With a hiss, the glass lids began to open. Cold mist spilled into the room. The younger one stirred first, her eyelids fluttering. Her eyes opened, bright and unfamiliar, glowing faintly in the dim light. She gasped for air, trembling as life rushed back into her body. The older one followed soon after, coughing softly as she awoke. Both looked around in confusion, their eyes landing on Elias. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The silence was heavy, filled only by the hum of dying machinery. Finally, the younger one whispered something in a language Elias didn't understand. The older one placed a hand on her sister's arm, steadying her, then spoke in halting galactic common. "Who are you?" Elias lowered his plasma torch, raising his free hand in peace. "Name's Elias. I'm just a salvager. I didn't mean to intrude. I found you here." The sisters exchanged a glance, then the older one said softly, "You freed us. We were lost." Her voice cracked as if the weight of years pressed upon her. Elias could see the truth in their eyes. They weren't ordinary survivors. There was something regal about them, something that spoke of lineage and importance. His instincts told him they were not just lost travelers. They were someone important. The younger one whispered again, and the older translated, "We are Leora and Kaelin, daughters of Queen Serathis of the Thalviri Empire." Elias felt the ground shift beneath him. The lost princesses. He had heard of them in stories, legends whispered across the stars. Two royal heirs who had vanished decades ago, mourned by an empire assumed dead, and now here they stood, alive, looking at him with eyes full of hope and fear. He knew instantly that his life had just changed. The moment felt unreal. Elias could hardly believe what he had just heard. Princesses of the Thalviri Empire alive after all these years, right before him. His mind raced, not with fear, but with the weight of responsibility. There was no time to think about consequences. They were here and they were alive, and if the stories were true, returning them to their mother would not be simple. The galaxy was not kind to those who carried the lost heirs of an empire. The princesses looked at Elias with a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. Leora, the younger, still trembling from years of stasis, spoke first. Where are we?" Her voice was soft, uncertain, like someone waking from a dream that felt both real and unreal. Kaelin, older and steadier, took her sister's hand, her sharp eyes scanning the room, taking in every detail. "We are in a place we do not know. Someone has saved us, but who?" Elias took a deep breath, trying to steady his own nerves. "I'm Elias Ward. I found you here in this abandoned stronghold. I don't know exactly who left you here or why, but I promise I will get you home." Kaelin raised her eyebrows, skeptical. "Home? You mean the Empire?" "Yes," Elias replied. "Your mother. The Queen. She's alive, ruling the Empire, and you two need to return to her." The sisters exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. Kaelin's jaw tightened. "It has been years. If anyone else knows we are alive, they will try to stop us. They might even kill us to keep power." Elias nodded slowly. He had suspected as much. The galaxy had been cruel to their family, and now returning them could be more dangerous than finding them in the first place. "I know. That is why we cannot waste time. We must leave this place before anyone finds out that you are awake." They began to move carefully through the corridors. Elias helped the princesses over broken floors and debris. Each step felt heavy, like walking through years of forgotten pain. The air was stale, thick with dust, yet the moment held a fragile sense of hope. Every small sound, the echo of their footsteps, the distant groan of shifting metal, reminded them that they were not yet safe. As they reached the entrance to the canyon, Leora paused. I don't remember anything," she admitted, her voice trembling. "It is all a blur. One moment I was with Mother, and the next—" She trailed off, unable to finish. Kaelin squeezed her sister's hand gently. "It does not matter what you remember. We are alive, and that is what matters now. But we must be careful. Many people will want to keep us from returning. We cannot trust anyone." Elias nodded. "I understand. I have dealt with people like that before. Pirates, mercenaries, thieves. The galaxy is full of them, but we can avoid them if we are careful. I know the routes, the hidden ways between systems that few dare to travel." Leora looked at him with wide eyes. You would risk yourself for us." Elias shrugged. "It's not about risking. It's about doing what is right. No one should have to live in the shadows while others take what is theirs." Kalen studied him closely. Humans are unusual. Most of the stories we heard of your kind speak of greed, selfishness, and violence. You seem different. Elias smiled faintly. We are many things, just like any species. But some of us, like me, try to make a difference where it counts. The sisters said nothing after that, but their trust began to grow. They followed Elias carefully down the canyon, emerging into the open landscape under a sky painted in the dim light of twin moons. Elias led them to the Wayfarer's Hope, his patched and battered salvage ship waiting like an old friend. He helped the princesses aboard, showing them the controls, the navigation systems, and the small living quarters. They were amazed at the human technology, simple, practical, and resilient. Elias explained that the ship was not fast by military standards, but it was agile and could hide in places where larger vessels would be detected easily. We'll need to travel through dangerous space, Elias said as he strapped the sisters into the cabin seats. Pirates, mercenaries, and some of the Queen's enemies may try to stop us. They might have heard rumors of your survival already. We need to be clever, Kalen nodded. Then we will follow your lead. But tell us everything we need to know. If we are to survive, we cannot afford mistakes. The journey began quietly. The Wayfarer's Hope glided through the shadowed corridors of space, weaving between asteroids and abandoned satellites. Elias taught the sisters how to read the sensors, how to monitor the engines, and how to anticipate threats. Though exhausted from stasis, they were fast learners. They adapted quickly, showing intelligence and skill that only royal upbringing could instill. During the long hours of travel, the conversation shifted from survival to memories. Leora asked about the stars they had seen from the canyon. Did you ever see anything like this? She asked, pointing to a field of glowing nebulae. Elias chuckled softly. Many times, but they never looked quite like this. You have to remember that beauty is everywhere, even in places no one wants to see. That is part of surviving, the ability to notice the small wonders even when everything seems broken. Kalen watched him closely. You speak as though the galaxy has taught you more than just survival. You have seen hardship, and yet you keep hope alive. That is remarkable for a human. Elias shrugged. We survive because we must, but we also survive because we care. Some of us refuse to leave others behind, even if it costs us everything. That is what keeps us moving forward. The sisters listened quietly, absorbing his words. It was different from the rigid life in the palace where rules and protocol dictated every action. Elias's world was raw, dangerous, but it was full of freedom and courage, the kind that only someone who had lived on the edge of life could teach. As they approached the first system controlled by rival factions, Elias grew tense. We are entering dangerous territory, he warned. They will try to intercept us, possibly attack. We have to be ready. Kalen studied the view screen, her eyes narrowing. Then we fight if we must. We will not let them stop us. Our mother, she waits for us. We will not fail her again. Elias nodded, impressed by her resolve. Good. But remember, sometimes the smartest fight is the one you avoid. Speed, stealth, and intelligence can save us more than weapons. The first encounter came sooner than expected. A scout vessel emerged from behind an asteroid field, its weapon systems glowing ominously. Elias maneuvered the Wayfarer's Hope expertly, weaving between debris, using every trick he knew. The princesses assisted with sensors and communications, guiding him with observations and strategies that impressed even Elias. The scout fired, but the small salvage ship dodged with near-impossible agility. Elias laughed, a sound full of adrenaline. See, sometimes it's not brute force. It's cleverness that counts. The scout tried to follow, but Elias led it into a dense asteroid belt. He set a trap, leading the enemy ship through a narrow pass. The vessel misjudged the turns, colliding with an asteroid and exploding in a shower of debris. The princesses watched in awe, realizing that humans' ingenuity could match the might of fleets and technology. As the stars streaked by in the wake of the explosion, Leora whispered, "You are incredible. I never imagined anyone could do what you just did." Elias smiled faintly. I'm just a human doing what humans do best, adapt, survive, and protect those who matter. Kalen looked at him, a new respect forming. Perhaps the galaxy underestimated your kind. Perhaps it will learn that humans are not so easily defeated. For hours, the Wayfarer's Hope continued its journey. Every system, every jump, every maneuver strengthened the bond between Elias and the princesses. They were learning from him and he from them. They shared stories of their childhood, of life in the palace, of memories both painful and joyful. In turn, Elias shared tales of human colonies, of small victories and narrow escapes, of lives lived on the edge yet full of meaning. In the quiet moments, as the ship glided through the void, Kaelin turned to Elias and asked, "Why do you do this? Why risk your life for us, strangers to your kind?" Elias looked at her, eyes steady. "Because someone has to. Because no one should have to grow up thinking hope is gone forever. Because some things are worth more than wealth, more than safety, more than life itself. Family, hope, survival. Even if we are strangers, I cannot turn away when the galaxy has wronged you." Leora, sitting quietly beside her sister, reached out and took Elias's hand. She did not speak, but the gesture said everything. In a universe that had been cruel and empty, she had found someone who believed in her, who believed in them. The journey was far from over. Dangerous systems awaited, and enemies would test every skill Elias and the princesses possessed. Yet for the first time in many years, Leora and Kaelin felt a fragile sense of hope. And Elias, for the first time in a long time, felt that what he did mattered, not just for survival, but for something greater. Together, they were no longer lost. They were beginning a journey that would challenge the galaxy itself, and perhaps in the process remind everyone that courage, ingenuity, and the human heart could change destinies. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of danger, mystery, and possibility. Elias steered the wayfarers' hope forward, carrying not only the lost princesses of the Thalviri Empire, but also the spark of hope that no shadow, no enemy, and no passage of time could ever extinguish. The journey through the outer systems was not easy. Every star they passed, every planet they approached carried hidden dangers. Elias had warned the princesses, but they were beginning to see the truth in his words firsthand. Patrols of pirate fleets, rival claimants to the throne, and rogue mercenaries scoured the void. They had heard rumors of the lost heirs of the Thalviri Empire traveling with a human, an unlikely combination that promised both great reward and deadly consequences. The wayfarers' hope moved like a shadow among the stars, dodging sensors, weaving between asteroids, and skimming past drifting space debris. The ship groaned with age, the engines rattling as Elias pushed it to its limits. Yet somehow it held together, carrying them deeper into space, further from the systems where their enemies could find them. Leora had grown more confident since the journey began. She no longer trembled at the smallest sound. Instead, she scanned the starfields with curiosity, fascinated by the movement of ships and satellites, and eager to learn from Elias. Kaelin remained cautious, her sharp eyes always searching the darkness for threats, but she had begun to trust Elias's judgment. He was not only their guide, but their shield against a galaxy that had once stolen everything from them. The first real test came when a hostile fleet appeared on their sensors. A band of mercenaries had been tipped off about the movement of the lost princesses. Their ships were larger, faster, armed with energy cannons and missile pods. Elias cursed under his breath, his mind racing for a solution. "They know we are here. We need to think fast." Kaelin leaned over the console, analyzing the enemy formations. "There are 5 of them. They are blocking our path to the nearest safe jump point. If we engage directly, we will not survive." Elias nodded. "Then we won't engage directly. Leora, scan for debris fields. Anywhere we can hide and force them into a trap." Leora's fingers flew across the controls. Her eyes widened as she located a nearby asteroid belt, jagged and dense. "There," she said. "We can use it. They will have trouble following us without colliding." Elias smiled faintly. "Good thinking. Let's go." The Wayfarer's Hope darted toward the asteroid belt, engines roaring, leaving a trail of debris in its wake. The mercenary ships followed, confident and arrogant, believing the small salvage ship could not outmaneuver them. But Elias knew the terrain intimately. He twisted the ship through narrow gaps, dodging massive rocks, using the environment to mask their movements. Missiles streaked past, exploding against asteroids. The princesses held their breath as small fragments of rock struck the ship. Elias' hands were steady, guiding the vessel with a combination of skill and instinct. "Hold on," he said, though even he could feel the tension crackling in the cabin. "We are not out yet." The mercenaries underestimated the agility of a human pilot and the knowledge of two quick-learning royals. Leora guided Elias through the densest part of the belt, warning him of rocks too small to see on sensors. Kalen used the ship's communication systems to send false signals, confusing the enemy about their direction. One by one, the mercenary ships collided with asteroids, unable to match their precise maneuvers. Elias let out a long breath when the last ship was destroyed. The asteroid belt silent again except for the hum of the Wayfarer's Hope's engines. The princesses looked at him with awe. That was incredible, Leora whispered. Elias shook his head. Not incredible. Just human ingenuity. Always look for solutions where others see only obstacles. Kalen smiled faintly, a mixture of admiration and disbelief. I have seen a lot in my life. Noble scheming, generals plotting, warriors training for decades, but never have I seen courage and skill like this. You are remarkable, Elias. He waved off the praise, though a small warmth spread in his chest. It's nothing. We have more work to do. Our journey is far from over. The next few days were tense. Every jump through hyperspace brought them closer to the core worlds of the Thalviri Empire, and closer to the enemies who would do anything to stop the return of the princesses. Each night, Elias would sit in the cockpit, the stars stretching endlessly before him, and the princesses would watch quietly, listening to him recount tales of human ingenuity and survival. They learned how humans adapted to challenges, how they used limited resources to overcome impossible odds, and how courage was often stronger than any weapon. Leora asked questions constantly, her curiosity insatiable. Kalen asked fewer questions, but her observations were precise, often guiding Elias in ways that surprised him. Together they formed a team, each bringing their own skills, instincts, and determination to the journey. One evening, as they passed near a dying star, alarms blared across the ship. Sensors detected a patrol of royal enforcers, loyal to factions that had seized power in the absence of the princesses. They were armed and aggressive, determined to intercept the Wayfarer's Hope before it could reach the safety of the outer systems. Elias gritted his teeth. They won't stop us. Not if we think smarter than they do. Kalen analyzed the fleet formation. They expect a straight course. If we take an indirect path through the ion clouds near that gas giant, we can appear behind them. They will not see us coming, Leora nodded. It is risky. The ion clouds interfere with sensors and shields, but it may be the only chance, Elias agreed. Then we take the risk. Strap in, everyone. It's going to be a rough ride. The Wayfarer's Hope plunged toward the gas giant, its hull shuddering as it entered the swirling ion clouds. Lightning-like discharges danced across the clouds, flickering through the ship's hull. The sensors went wild, warning of imminent danger at every moment. But Elias pushed forward, trusting his instincts and the guidance of the princesses. The royal patrols expected an easy interception. Instead, the salvage ship emerged behind them, unnoticed until it was too late. Elias fired a series of decoy flares and false readings, confusing the enemy into believing they were under attack from another direction. The patrol ships turned to investigate, giving the Wayfarer's Hope a clear path through the clouds. When the danger passed, the cabin fell silent except for the hum of the engines. Leora exhaled shakily. I never imagined the galaxy could be so dangerous. And so beautiful. Elias nodded. Danger and beauty often travel together. You just have to know how to navigate both. Kalen's eyes shone with determination. Every obstacle we overcome brings us closer to Mother. We cannot fail now. Not after everything we have survived. As the days passed, the bond between human and royals grew stronger. Elias found himself not only guiding the princesses through physical dangers but also offering counsel, encouragement, and comfort. They were learning to trust him completely, understanding that his courage and cleverness were as important as any weapon or starship. One night, as they rested in a quiet corner of space, Leora turned to Elias. Do you ever get tired of always fighting, always surviving? Elias looked at her, the stars reflected in his eyes. Sometimes, but every time I wonder if it is worth it. I remember moments like this, helping those who cannot help themselves, making a difference when it matters most. That keeps me moving, Kalen nodded in agreement. It is why humans are remarkable. You carry hope with you even when all seems lost. Perhaps that is why the galaxy has never truly defeated your kind. Suddenly, alarms blared. A shadow moved across the view screen, a fleet larger than any they had encountered before. Elias' eyes narrowed. We are not alone, and this is going to be our hardest challenge yet. The ships belonged to a coalition of mercenaries and rogue nobles who had prospered during the years the princesses were missing. They had intercepted information about their survival and moved quickly to intercept the Wayfarer's hope. The odds were against them, 4-1. Heavier firepower, faster ships, but Elias did not panic. He had faced worse, and he had two allies with him whose courage and ingenuity matched his own. Kalen analyzed the fleet. They are fast but predictable. Their strategy relies on brute force. We can outsmart them if we are clever. Leora pointed to the sensor readings. There is a debris field near the moon cluster. We can use it to our advantage, split their fleet and force them to fight each other. Elias smiled grimly. Good. Let's see if we can teach them what humans and Thalviri princesses can do together. The Wayfarer's hope darted into the debris field, maneuvering through broken moons and shattered satellites. The enemy fleet followed, their confidence turning to frustration as ships collided with rocks and each other. Elias guided them with precision, Kalen providing tactical analysis, and Leora using the sensors to predict enemy movements. In the chaos, Elias unleashed a series of decoys, leading the larger ships into ambushes set by the natural obstacles of the debris field. The smaller fleet was forced to retreat, unable to match their skill and strategy. The princesses watched astonished as human cunning and Thalviri knowledge combined to overcome impossible odds. When the last enemy ship was gone, Elias exhaled deeply. We made it. This is only the beginning, but we survived another day. Kalen smiled, a rare moment of relief breaking through her seriousness. Perhaps the galaxy is not as cruel as I believed. Perhaps hope can survive even in the darkest places. Leora hugged her sister, whispering softly, We are alive, and we will reach Mother, thanks to him. The Thalviri homeworld was growing closer with each jump, a shining jewel in the dark sea of stars. Its capital city sparkled like 1,000 diamonds under the light of twin suns. But the closer Elias and the princesses came, the heavier the weight of danger pressed upon them. Rumors of their survival had spread through the Empire's corridors of power. Mercenaries, conspirators, and rival claimants had mobilized, determined to prevent the daughters of Queen Serathis from returning. Elias stared at the navigation screen, tracing the route through the star systems. We're close, he said quietly. But this is when it gets hardest. They expect us and they'll try anything to stop us. Kalen's eyes narrowed. We've come this far. We cannot turn back. If we do, we are lost. Leora nodded, still leaning on the rail of the small cabin, watching the stars streak past. I am ready. Whatever comes, we face it together. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Good, that is the spirit. Now we need a plan. The first obstacle appeared sooner than expected. A blockade of heavily armed ships had taken position near the border of the homeworld system. They were larger and more advanced than any fleet Elias had faced. Their weapons gleamed, and their sensors swept the void with deadly precision. It was clear that whoever commanded these ships was determined to stop them, no matter the cost. Kalen leaned over the sensor console, analyzing the formation. They are organized, but they rely on intimidation. If we can create confusion, we may slip through. Elias nodded. Then we'll do just that. Leora set up decoys. Kalen, guide me through the blind spots. We move fast and smart, not by brute force. The Wayfarer's hope dove into the system, weaving between planets and moons, its engines burning brightly. Decoy drones streaked outward, each mimicking the ship's signature. The blockade fired, lasers streaking past, but they hit only empty space as Elias guided the real ship along an indirect path. Kalen directed them through a dense field of space debris, where larger ships struggled to maneuver. The princess's skills complemented Elias's knowledge perfectly. Leora handled the decoys with precision, while Kalen predicted enemy movements, allowing Elias to slip through narrow gaps between asteroids and wreckage. Despite their careful planning, disaster struck. One of the smaller ships fired a missile that found its mark, striking the hull of the Wayfarer's Hope. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the ship shuddered violently. Elias gritted his teeth. Hold on, brace for impact. The ship's shields flared as he rerouted power to reinforce the hull. Sparks flew across the cabin, and Leora grabbed Kalen's arm instinctively. We can survive this, Elias shouted over the noise. Just trust me." With precise maneuvers, he led the ship through a narrow canyon of asteroids, forcing the pursuing vessels to scatter. The smaller ships collided with rocks and debris, their sensors unable to navigate the chaos. Elias's hands moved quickly, pushing the Wayfarer's Hope through impossible gaps, testing both the ship and his own endurance. Finally, they emerged from the debris field, the blockade in disarray behind them. Leora exhaled shakily. That was too close. Kalen's face was set, determination blazing in her eyes. It is not over. They will regroup, and they will try again. Elias nodded. I know, but for now we have a chance. We need to find a safe route to the capital. Their path took them closer to the homeworld, where the stakes were higher than ever. The closer they came, the more they could see the political tension at work. The queen's enemies were numerous, and many had grown wealthy and powerful in the absence of the princesses. Some were convinced that the daughters were dead, and would go to any lengths to keep them lost, fearing the loss of their own influence. As they approached a communication relay station, Elias received a transmission. It was encrypted, but Kalen quickly deciphered it. The message was a warning. A coalition of mercenaries and rogue nobles was mobilizing to intercept the Wayfarer's Hope before it could reach the capital. They were laying a trap near the main space lane, anticipating the princess's route. Elias leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. We need a new plan. The direct route is a trap. We have to be clever. Kalen pointed to a series of small, uncharted jumps. We can use these. They are old emergency lanes, rarely monitored. It will be risky, but it may be the only way. Leora looked at Elias, concern in her eyes. Risky? How risky? Elias smiled faintly. Life is always risky. But sometimes risk is the only way to survive. And if we do it right, we can slip past their trap. The Wayfarer's Hope veered off the main course, heading into the narrow, uncharted jumps. The journey was perilous. The lanes were unstable, and any miscalculation could destroy the ship. Elias's hands moved with skill born of years of experience, guiding the vessel with precision. The princesses assisted, their observations and calculations helping to navigate the treacherous paths. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. A burst of energy from an unstable jump corridor struck the hull, throwing sparks across the cabin. Leora shouted in alarm. We are losing stability. Kalen grabbed the controls alongside Elias. We can compensate. Divert all power to shields and engines. Working together, the three managed to stabilize the Wayfarer's Hope, emerging from the jump corridor battered but intact. Elias exhaled heavily. Good work. That could have gone much worse. Leora looked at him with awe. I have never seen anyone handle danger like you. You are extraordinary. Elias shook his head. I'm just doing what needs to be done. You two are brave, and your skills made this possible. We survived because we worked together. The journey through the final jumps brought them closer to the capital. The stars glimmered with familiar constellations, and the distant glow of the city lights grew brighter. But Elias knew that reaching the capital did not mean safety. The final challenge awaited, the internal threats, the conspirators within the court who feared the return of the princesses. As they approached the planet's upper orbit, a massive enforcement fleet appeared, blocking all main entry points. These were not pirates or mercenaries. They were professional, disciplined, and loyal to factions that had long prospered in the absence of the heirs. They opened communication, demanding that the Wayfarer's Hope surrender. Elias shook his head. We cannot surrender. Not now. We are so close. Kalen analyzed the fleet formation. They rely on numbers and intimidation. If we can create a distraction, we may slip through a side route unnoticed. Leora's eyes shone with determination. Then we do it. Whatever it takes. Elias nodded. Good. Let's make our move. Using a combination of decoy signals, false communications, and precise maneuvers, Elias guided the Wayfarer's Hope through a small asteroid cluster near the planet. The fleet fired blindly at the decoys, wasting ammunition and energy, while the small ship slipped through unnoticed. The tension was unbearable. Every second felt like an eternity. The princesses clung to their seats as the ship weaved through narrow gaps, the planet's gravity tugging at its engines. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and yet Elias never wavered. His focus was absolute, his skill unmatched. Finally, they broke free of the enforcement fleet and entered the planet's upper atmosphere. The city below stretched out like a maze of lights and towers. The palace, once a symbol of grandeur, now stood as a beacon of hope, their ultimate destination. Kalen exhaled, relief mixed with anxiety. We made it this far. But the hardest part is yet to come. The palace. The court. We will face enemies there even if we survive the journey. Elias nodded. Then we prepare. We have survived the impossible already. The palace is just another challenge, and we are ready. Leora looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and admiration in her eyes. Thank you for everything. You could have left us, ignored us, but you didn't. You saved us. Elias smiled faintly. I didn't save just you. We saved each other. That is what matters. As the Wayfarer's hope descended toward the planet, the princesses looked out at the city below, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear, hope, and determination. The journey had been long, the challenges nearly insurmountable, but they had survived. And now the moment of truth awaited. They were close to returning home, to the queen who had never given up hope that they were alive. The final approach would test everything: courage, skill, and ingenuity. But Elias and the princesses were ready. Together they would face the court, confront the conspirators, and reclaim what had been stolen. The stars had guided them, danger had shaped them, and hope had carried them. Now the future of the Thalviri Empire rested not just on their survival, but on their courage and determination. The journey to the palace would be the ultimate test, and they were prepared to meet it head-on. With a deep breath, Elias guided the Wayfarer's hope into the final descent, the planet growing larger with every passing second, and the promise of reunion, justice, and triumph shining brighter than any star.